Jaylen Brown goes to the Sixers in exchange for Paul George, 2 first-round picks, and 2 second-round picks. The years, right, all of the notations around those picks, still TBD. We'll get that momentarily. But
wow.
2 first-rounders, 2 second-rounders, and Paul George go to Boston for Jaylen Brown, whose time with the Celtics as a former NBA Finals MVP comes to an end.
Wow. First initial reaction is, what the hell are the Celtics doing? You gave up a player who was an MVP candidate last year, and I know he was causing a stink based on everything he was saying off the court this offseason, but you gave him up for essentially 2 first-round picks and an old, often injured Paul George.
Well, I got to admit, I've never really understood the Jaylen Brown thing from the beginning.
I think it's pretty clear that he wanted out, and he wanted out really badly, but that does not mean that Boston has to agree to a deal that I think is a massive underpay for the team acquiring it.
Agreed. I don't know why they let it get to this. I don't really understand the nature of why he had to go and how this became sort of distasteful from their perspective. I don't get it. I thought he was brilliant this year.
He was amazing.
They overachieved at such a level, even while Jason Tatum was out.
Do you remember what we thought they were going to be this year without Tatum available?
We thought it was a Pacers year. We thought it was a reboot.
We thought maybe they were like a bottom half of the East playoff team, maybe.
Just wild.
But they were top of the top half, top 2, top 3 in the East the entire year.
I don't get it. I don't cover that team, but I don't get it. But I'm with you. I think the Philadelphia 76ers have pulled a fast one here, and at a certain point, we might, I know the Sixers, right? So who knows? Joel Embiid and all of that, but a backcourt of Maxey and Jaylen Brown.
And Edgecombe.
Edgecombe is a great young player. The Sixers become a factor in the East.
Oh, yeah.
Big time.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is good enough to elevate an already... The Sixers beat the Celtics in the playoffs.
They knocked them out. Right.
And now they took Jaylen Brown from him.
Yep.
And they gave up Paul George, who
cares?
No one in Philly cares about Paul George.
Paul George
They're happy to be off of his money. Are you kidding me?
He's an afterthought right now as in the NBA.
I thought we're at a point with Paul George where just to get rid of him, you'd have to attach picks to him. So you attach picks to Paul George, but you're not just getting off his contract, you're getting Jaylen Brown. Oh my God! I was at a point where once the draft happened, where I wouldn't have been shocked. And I think we were on the air last week, maybe talking about it, or a couple of weeks ago. Once the draft passed, I wouldn't have been shocked if the Celtics didn't trade Jaylen Brown, period, this offseason. Because what they would have wanted is a really good player in this year's draft, plus assets to help you win now. But if you're Boston, explain this to me. If you're the Celtics, you go into next year with the talent on your roster as, in my opinion, the favorite in the East. Like, if you had Jaylen Brown on your roster along with Tatum and everybody that they have, at least
the Knicks came together. I think they're going to be the favorite.
At worst,
in the East,
one of the top 3 teams. At worst.
Yep, I agree.
And you trade away Jaylen Brown, and the asset you have to help you right now is Paul George, and that's it.
Remember that whole stat that came up this week where people were comparing the games played over the last 2 seasons for Anthony Davis and Kristaps Porzingis?
Yeah.
And that they were pretty similar, 74 and 71, respectively, I think.
Yeah, how many has Paul George played?
78.
In those 2 seasons?
2 seasons. 78 games.
And he's making more money than Porzingis.
Right, and this is going to be age 36 season now for Paul George.
If I'm a Celtics fan, I am absolutely stunned, and I'm incredibly shocked, and I'm upset. Brad Stevens, what the hell are you doing? Brad Stevens has made so many good moves, but I don't get this one. The only way I can explain it is Jaylen Brown desperately wanted out, and I don't know, made it as uncomfortable as possible on the Celtics. But if that's the case, you wait a lot longer to confirm that it's not going to work.
It's fascinating in terms of now look at this through the eyes of other teams around the league.
Well, I'm seeing the text line and I'm seeing the YouTube chat.
Sure.
What the hell could the Warriors have done?
Well, they could have offered more picks.
More, yes.
They could have offered more picks, and obviously they would have had to offer Jimmy Butler And the Warriors don't really want to trade Jimmy Butler. But, Jimmy Butler is hurt. Paul George isn't yet, but will be.
Yeah, probably.
But here's the other thing. Jimmy Butler's contract expires at the end of this year.
Yeah.
Paul George has one more after this year. He is making 54 this year with a player option for 56.
And guess what? He'll take that player option. He's not getting that money anywhere else.
So, could the Warriors have made a better offer? My opinion, yes. For the Celtics, you know what I mean? Would you rather have the perception of Jimmy Butler for half a year, but then the money expires, or Paul George, who's in theory healthy now, but rarely is, but you have the money for 2 years.
Yeah.
They're both about the same age. The Warriors have more picks they could have played with, but the Warriors, I know, don't want to do that.
But Jaylen Brown is the kind of player where he's young enough to where I'm okay personally doing that.
Right, but, not if you're already going to get LeBron James. I'm just telling you,
They could have done both.
But every move they could have done, sure. Well, I don't know how you...
it's just like Anthony Davis for Jimmy Butler. It's Jaylen Brown for Jimmy Butler. The money is relatively even. You do whatever else on the margins to make it work.
Except for the 2 deals that they just signed, which would not fit. Kristaps and DeAnthony Melton.
The point is, I thought, and a lot of Warrior fans would be upset at me, and on Twitter or here on shows talking about I don't think the Warriors are involved at all in Jaylen Brown, because what do the Warriors have that the Celtics would want? Because I was always under the impression that the Celtics would only trade Jaylen Brown if they get something extremely meaningful and impactful for this season, plus future assets. It's why the Giannis sweepstakes made sense, because Giannis would immediately make them, I think, clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference. Giannis and Tatum and everything else that they have, that looks like the best team in the East. Okay, you do that if you're Boston, no doubt, because that helps you now win a championship this season, maybe even next season, and you get future assets in terms of draft picks. Maybe not for Giannis, but maybe some other deals you do. But the fact that the Celtics pulled the trigger on this deal, where the only asset to help you right now is Paul George, to me screams exactly what you're talking about. Maybe the Warriors could have put together an offer that would have enticed the Celtics. I don't know exactly how they would value the help in this moment, Paul George versus Jimmy Butler, considering Jimmy Butler is injured right now, and you don't know exactly when he's going to come back. But if the Celtics were willing to take that offer, even if it means Jimmy Butler and 3 first-round picks for Jaylen Brown, I'm interested in that. This is Jaylen Brown we're talking about, an MVP candidate last year, who's still young.
Details on the picks
Give them to me.
Are now in. This, again, part of the trade that sends Jaylen Brown to the Sixers. Paul George goes to the Celtics. But in addition to that, Boston will receive a 2028 first-round pick that could convert from a first to a swap if it's more favorable for Boston.
Okay.
So they'll get the better of those two. A 2031 unprotected first from Philadelphia. A 2028 second round, most favorable of Milwaukee, OKC, and Golden State, because the Warriors' second-round pick is there. And then a 2030 second-round pick, most favorable of Washington, Portland, and Phoenix.
So the 2028 first-round pick could convert from a first to a swap if that's more favorable to Boston. I don't think these are that valuable of picks either.
I don't know why that would be more favorable. Why wouldn't Boston just want both? Why wouldn't they want their own pick and the other pick?
And if memory serves, the Sixers have picks from the Clippers too, which would be more valuable than the Sixers' own first. So the Sixers got to keep the first they have from the Clippers, which you would think are going to be more valuable picks than the Sixers picks, because the Sixers now have Jaylen Brown and Tyrese Maxey and VJ Edgecombe.
Okay, from a Warrior fan perspective, especially, and I know Jaylen Brown's got a local tie too that really makes him attractive for fans, and I get that. But keep in mind, so when your thought process goes, hey, the Warriors could have done this, this is what Boston chose through all the offers. What is that telling us? That means this was the best offer they got. And that is head-scratching to me. I don't know what it is about two things. Either that Jaylen Brown kind of lowered his value, everybody knew that he was on the move, or if this has more to do with just the salary structure of the NBA and teams right now and the timing of it. Everybody's got so little movement that they can make right now. Maybe it's a combination of all of these things. But it's not just the Warriors where you look at this right now and go, well, if that's all it took, why wouldn't you do it? You could kind of say that about a lot of teams. But I also do, like a little teeny piece of me, not a large one, but a small piece of me sees this and does think, again, that there is a LeBron factor to it. You know, if the Warriors know what their offseason is already, then they're not going to get involved in this. Because whether we agree with it or not, I promise you this. I really feel strongly that I've been not informed, but led to believe the Golden State Warriors are holding their post-Steph flexibility very dear. Very dear. So you can argue against that. I get it, but I do believe that is their thought process. And I say it that way because I don't want to tell you that it's in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. I don't know exactly how many years. But whenever Steph is done, the Warriors would like a lot of flexibility. So they're going to kind of take things a little bit year to year to a degree.
It's a tough pill to swallow. He's a 29-year-old superstar.
How many years left on the deal?
I think 3.
Yeah.
He's making 57 this year. Jimmy Butler is making 56.8. It's essentially the same number in terms of the money this year. It's a 1-for-1 swap, and it works. And then you add on however many picks the Celtics would have wanted to get it done.
Yep.
And maybe the Celtics just, bottom line, no, we don't want Jimmy Butler. And maybe that's what it was. Who the hell knows?
But again, you're looking at Jaylen Brown, 57 this year, 61 next year, 65 the year after that. If Steph were to play those 3 years, obviously Steph would have the ability to lower that deal, his own deal. But what are we talking about in terms of the ability to
I get the flexibility that you're talking about, and
but also current players off this roster, which is already thin.
I get it, but to me,
I'm not arguing against it. I'm not arguing against it at all.
I'm willing to give up a bunch of flexibility if I have the ability to get a really good player as a result.
I hear you.
And not a player that is, Jaylen Brown's going to be 30 when this season begins. It's not like he's not a spring chicken, but he's got a number of really good years left. Giannis scares me a little bit from a health standpoint moving forward. Jaylen Brown he doesn't scare me from a health standpoint. This is the deal that you have been holding on to your picks for, in my opinion. This is the kind of acquisition, in my opinion, where it makes sense.
I don't disagree with that at all. My only pushback on it is I think there is an argument for the idea of even if you get a Jaylen Brown, the majority of your players still remain over 35 years old. And when that's the case, good Lord, I'm so hesitant on giving up future draft capital. I really am. And I'm not saying that Jaylen Brown's not worth it. I hear your thought process. I really do.
But Jaylen's separate from those older players.
Right, but okay, so then you get to the end of these 2-3 years and you still all you would have is Jaylen. And
still have a really good player on your roster.
But you wouldn't. Then he's expiring. And yes, in theory, you could then re-put him on the market to redo your draft capital. That's a fair thought.
You signed him again. He's 33. I mean, you signed him for 3 more years. You have him through 35, 36. Still a good player. You have the starts of what is your roster after Steph.
And no draft picks. That's what I'm saying.
You trade away 3 of them, say, for example. It's not like that's all of them.
It's
not like it's the Lakers where they don't have any more draft picks to trade.
I in a way, I think that you could convince me of either thought process. Jaylen Brown is special. What it is that the league is thinking about him or knowing about him, I don't know. There's something going on there that doesn't add up to me. because I think he's wonderful, and he would be really wonderful here. This area would absolutely embrace him. So I get it. At the same time, though, I'm not going to argue hard for any major deal that causes you to give up 2, 3, 4 first-round draft picks when Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Kristaps, Al, all of these people are so old. I think you want those. You want those unless it is just an absolute home run. This feels more like a double to me. So I wouldn't argue against it, but...
This feels like the most confusing major trade in the NBA since Luka to the Lakers.
Right, but not just from the Warrior perspective.
No, just in general. About who the team trading away the young star got in return. This feels like the most confusing return on a trade since Luka to the Lakers. It feels that way to me. And we're never going to know like what a theoretical Warriors offer was. At least I don't ever expect that we're going to know what a theoretical Warriors offer would have been if it ever got far enough to where there was a real offer put in place. But let's just say if it was on the table potentially, and the Warriors could have gotten this done with Jimmy Butler, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. Essentially the same deal, but just Jimmy Butler in for Paul George, and they didn't do that.
But even that's a big maybe, because Boston could respond and say, Jimmy's hurt.
I know, but I'm saying
you got to beat that. You got to beat this deal.
If Boston would have done that, I mean, it is an absolute swing and a miss to the nth degree by the Warriors, in my opinion. Jimmy Butler, 2 first-round picks, 2 second-round picks. I'm not saying Boston would have done it, but in a theoretical world, they would have done that, and the Warriors didn't do it for what you're talking about. They wanted to preserve their flexibility and their picks in the post-Steph era. Like, I, as a Warrior fan, am absolutely livid if that was the case.
I don't disagree with you, but
I'm not saying I think that is the case, but if it was, oh my God.
Yeah, but to me, you would have to beat this deal, and at least Boston can have the thought in their mind that Paul George will play a lot of games this year. You can't even have that thought with Jimmy Butler. You know what I mean? Plus, is Jimmy Butler, that comes with its own. That's a headache.
I'm trying to find.
That's a headache.
I'm trying to understand Boston's.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Like, do they think that they still are a legitimate competitor for a championship now? Like,
Boston?
Do they actually think that?
I don't know what they think. I don't know what they think.
I mean, to me, it doesn't take them out of being a good team, but they severely hinder their ability to win a championship. What does this mean for the future of all their other good players? Are they tearing things down? Like, what is happening here?
Are they tearing things down? This doesn't feel like a tear down. It does feel like, they built some assets and they got off of money a year earlier. So I don't call that a tear down, but I do call it a move toward some sort of a partial build. Yeah. But do I get it? No, I don't know. I would have thought you could get more than that for Jaylen Brown.